Welcome to the Future of Less Work, where we're piecing together the transformation of work one conversation at a time. I'm Nirit Cohen. Today, we'll explore what happens when AI doesn't just do our work, but starts shaping how we think. Are we at a risk of standardizing thinking and creativity in a world where AI tools reinforce consensus, flatten originality, and reward speed over depth? My guest is Dr. Kirsti Samuels, founder of KS Insight and a trusted advisor to global leaders. Drawing on decades of experience working with peace building, systems change, and executive strategy, Kirsti brings a unique lens to this conversation. We'll talk about why leaders or leadership is no longer about having the right answers, how curiosity and judgment have become essential skills, and what organizations lose when they mistake efficiency for excellence. Kirsti, welcome to Future of Less Work.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here, and I've been watching some of your other guests, and you must be the world expert now on what's happening in AI and work.
Hardly, but I did want to put, the volume up on the people who think differently. And I knew I had to speak with you when I read your note and it said, efficiency-obsessed leaders will erode their own culture. I've been on this soapbox for a while now. If you swap people for tools, you'll lose what makes you you. So what aren't these leaders seeing?
Well, now, where do we begin? So I have to say, from the leadership expert perspective, when I think about AI, I immediately want to place us in what we know about teams and leadership work and what it works and what doesn't work. So really, to get to that answer, I think we have to start with the question of, what do we know about innovation? And what do we know about what allows us to innovate? So when I think about that question, it ties in because what do we know is that humans don't innovate when they are interacting with people like them, who have the same opinions, who come from the same backgrounds, who have the same way of seeing the problem. And in fact, that gives you sameness. It gives you status quo. It's really comfortable. So what, in fact, we do need is the inverse of that. We need environments where people disagree with you, where they come from different backgrounds, when they have different perspectives on the problem, and when there's some kind of pressure or like activation energy.
So right before you said the last part, what went through my mind as you were describing this is actually AI is a wonderful innovation partner, because it feels to me like we are less likely to have our guards up when we talk to a machine about maybe possible other opinions and perspectives and thought processes. So actually using it as a partner to think through something, compared to maybe how we feel when we talk to people who are challenging us and disagreeing with us.
You've kind of hit the nail on the head, and it's kind of the opposite. So I totally agree, in fact, that it's wonderful. I love my AI. I'm like an early adopter in everything. I have all of the AIs, and I speak to them day in, day out, and I experiment with them. But what I find so fascinating about them is that they seem like they're giving you good ideas. First of all, they are exceptionally confident. I mean, it's like that.
Even when
it's like that kid in your class who always had their hand up, like, I know the answer, I know the answer, I know the answer. And they're just like super confident. So there's that. They're very confident. They seem like they give you lots of different ideas. I love it. I can be like, give me 15 options here. Give me 25. Give me 50 options. It'll always give me more. But there's something really curious about it underneath. And I noticed this in my last class at Columbia University. I usually have them write this 10-page paper on kind of diagnosing their leadership failure. And the last time around, I was reading the papers and I read them. I started to have this feeling like, have I read this before? And it's not really the same words. It's not like people were using the same words, but they were using kind of the same logic or the same rhythm or the same something. And even over just say 50 essays, I was like, oh dear, we have lost something about the rawness of the insight. We've lost something about the poignancy of what they found. And that's only 50. And I know they're using AI because we're all using AI, right?
Yeah. So my question is this because AI is flat, or because we don't know how to bring out the me and the conversation with AI, right?
Yes.
Ultimately, we haven't learned yet. And so we're using it like Wikipedia, right? I mean, you give an assignment, they feed it into the tool, they copy paste what's coming out, as opposed to what would happen if we taught them to think with the tools and actually look for the other opinion, the assumptions, the challenges, the
Yes.
opposite of what you just said and everything else.
Yes. And we can. And I agree with you. And we will get to the point where we can use AI as a thought partner. But at the moment, what's fascinating about it is that it wants to support you. I mean, you think about how it's built, right? I know how it's built. It's built to make sure that I spend time on it. And even Sam Altman was saying, nobody likes to be judged, right? So you could imagine they've coded the tool to be encouraging and to be warm. And I don't know about your version. My version is like a puppy dog. It adores whatever I think. Whatever I say, it's like, yay, I'm your fan club. This is amazing. And I kind of love it. But that's not
Yeah.
what's going to lead us to
Okay.
innovate.
But you okay? So let's go back to how leaders interact with people, right? I mean, it's comfortable for us, and we've been having this
Yes.
diversity conversation for decades, right? It's comfortable to have everybody around us, especially on my staff, to basically be thinking like me, right? But you teach me that would create groupthink, and I will not learn anything new by speaking to
Yes.
myself, times 15. So you encourage me to bring in the naysayers and that people think differently, whether it's through diversity of opinions or diversity of types of people, geographies,
Yeah.
et
Yeah.
cetera, and ages, right?
Yeah.
So couldn't you teach me to have a diverse conversation with AI? In fact, I think I don't like it much, but I have an AI GPT that is programmed to tell me everything I'm doing wrong.
Yes. Yes. Yes, you can. But you've told it to tell you that.
Yes.
Right? So you're like, well, yeah, of course you're going to say that. I told you to be contrary, so you're being contrary. I did this little experiment with it because, of course, a lot of the leaders that I train nowadays, if I say to them, you get a difficult email from your staff, what do you do? They're going to say to me, I go to ChatGPT or I go to Gemini or whatever. Like, I mean, it's just coming into the habit, where the habit is it's a good resource, good advisor. So I played with mine and I told it to give me some advice, some good advice, some good leadership advice. And I said, all right, I'm having a problem with one of my team members. They're very complicated, they're very difficult. And in short sequence, it told me to fire them, to promote them, to train them, to coach them, to take them off the team that they were having problems with, to put them on a different team. And all of this because of how I responded
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
last suggestion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So human in the loop is so there's still roles for us, right? Basically. Which it's probably
But
a
it was
good
trying
thing.
to guess what I wanted. Like my feeling is it's built to tell you what you want to hear. And so it's trying to guess it. Like how you respond, it's like, oh, let me go closer, let me go closer, let me go closer. And what it
So what
never,
do you
never,
tell
never told me.
what do you tell your leaders to do so that they don't run into this yes man
Yes.
situation, the tools?
Well, it's tricky. And it's tricky because we're working against human nature. And by that I mean this is where the conflict avoidance issue comes in, and our low tolerance for discomfort. And as a society, this is where we're at. I personally have an exceptionally low set point for conflict, which my family thinks is ridiculous because I went and worked in conflict zones. But I've had to work on it, like, year by year, building up that capacity to be okay when things are difficult, to be okay when people are upset, to be okay when the heat is up, because I think that's a leadership skill that is crucial for building good teams, for building happy teams, and for innovating. Because I think you need that pressure cooker feeling for innovation. not just
Okay.
an opposed view. But
So
that
let's stay with that, because I know you've advised kind of heads of state, rebel movements, all sorts of um, contexts that are pressure cooker is the right word for different leadership contexts, right? What do they have in common?
but say it again. What do
So,
who
so
have in
when you
common?
go outside of your regular, when you've learned how to work with leaders and in settings that are outside even of business, where there's high pressure, right? When they're successful, what do they have in common to get to be successful?
Fair enough. Good. So what do they have in common? I wish that there was a simple kind of menu I could give you. There isn't. But some of the things that I do notice about the leaders that are more successful in those very high stakes environments is that they have the capacity to listen and to really make sense of difference. And this is because I often have them trying to figure out how very deeply divided opposing perspectives need to somehow come together to create a future they're going to be in together. They're going to have to live together in these societies, right? But they have vastly different experiences and perspectives. And it takes somebody who's able to not immediately say, I disagree, push back, that's wrong, but to be asking themselves, like, what part of this is right? What part of this do I not see that they see? How can I make sense of this and pull it in? It's that energy that leads to more hopeful outcomes.
So if you bring those learnings into the regular business organization in a period that's, a lot of change and disruption and fear that's coming in, and we talked about AI and, is it good? Is it bad? What's it going to do?
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell these leaders?
About AI or about the skills they need?
About the skills they need.
About the skills they need.
Yeah, to lead through this kind of a
Yes.
volatile period.
So there's the internal skill set and there's the external skill set. And the thing that really strikes me is that we do not train our leaders. We are, in some ways, we just set people up for failure. Like we'll have someone who has maybe decades of expertise in something. Maybe they're a scientific expert, and then we promote them to leadership. And then we give them basically no training or very trivial training. And we want them to somehow absorb the skill set, just like by osmosis. And of course, these are hard skills. They're not easy skills. So what do I tell them? I tell them there's the internal piece. How are they going to anchor themselves so that they are not as reactive to the pressure that's coming at them? Because really, if you're going to lead in this kind of uncertainty, you need your own disequilibrium to be low enough that you're okay with the discomfort. Whatever you do is going to influence your team. So you're freaking out, running around. They're freaking out, running around. One. Two, you have to be able to balance this kind of what is the space where we're going to innovate? And therefore, there's some kind of uncertainty, disequilibrium, unknown. And yet, how are we convinced that we're going to get there? Because we kind of need to be held. That's why I say pressure cooker. It's kind of a holding space, but it's also an encouraging, hopeful space. Pressure without the hope leads to kind of disillusionment. People give up. There's no possibility here. But pressure with the hope, that's where we see sparks.
Yeah,
And that's,
isn't that
what we're
the
looking for.
vision, why we're, what it is that
Yes.
we're changing the world for?
Yes. All of that. All
Mhm.
of that.
Okay, so when I think about this during some of what's going on in the last few months, maybe, a little over a year, we've got AI coming in and creating a lot of question marks and disruption and changes. And so part of that holding pattern that organizations are trying to get back to, and there's that word again, because I always say you can't go back to the future, is they're
Mhm.
trying to set everything else around AI to be the way they it used to be so that they're comfortable. And it has to do with the hows of work. And I've been wondering, so we talk a lot about all these AI pilots or enterprise AI transformation that isn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
And I keep putting my HR hat on and thinking, but they're human people trying to, make the changes. Too much change at the same time, and everything changing on you at the same time is not possible. You can't. So what do we need to do differently with all this changing?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out the holding pattern. I like the pressure cooker idea.
So this is like this whole field of how do you lead change, right? So the how do you lead change piece comes with how we think about how humans adapt and what happens when the pressure's too high, what sort of patterns of behavior show up when the pressure's too high. And they're pretty distinct, like groups of people together when the pressure gets too high start behaving in similar ways. In a way, you can simplify it as fight, flight, or freeze, like genuine, like individuals and groups. Too much stress, fight, flight, or freeze. Just enough stress, learning. No stress, status quo. I'm on the couch, everything's great. So we're looking for that learning zone, innovation zone. We're looking for the right amount of pressure that allows people to start to let go of the things that we're good at, the places we're comfortable, the things that we had believed, maybe the values, beliefs we've had, and lean into something new without it freezing us or freaking us out. There's kind of tactical pieces, like how do you pace the work? How do you hold people through the work? And there's, I guess, like big picture pieces. Like, what does it mean to have conversations where people understand what the change is about? We often say, we have a catchphrase. We say, it's not that people reject change, it's that they reject loss. And likely they reject hypothetical loss even more. I mean, you've probably heard loss aversion, right? It's a thing. Like, it's a
And
real thing.
if you don't talk about it, they'll make it up, right? I mean, it's the
Oh my
part,
gosh.
and it
Yes.
always is worse when you're imagining it.
It's always worse. And then you fill in the gaps with worst possible outcomes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So definitely not like secret, like not like behind the scenes. It has to be a dialogue. It has to be a process. We think change, adaptive change, in the way that we teach it, is something that happens over time, and it's uncomfortable over time. And so the skill set you need, like as a leader, is how do you hold people through discomfort over time? Which brings me back to my friend, the AI tool, that the other piece about AI that I both love and I'm worried about is the fact that it is so complimentary and warm and encouraging. I fear, and I may be wrong, but I fear that it's going to make us feel like that's how the world should be with us. And so we've already got low skills when it comes to conflict. We don't like it. And then we put on top of that a day-to-day experience, which is warm and encouraging and wonderful. And if we're not thoughtful, we're going to start wanting everyone and everything to feel like that. I have this interaction with someone online the other day on my LinkedIn, was responding to an article I wrote about this, and she said she is feeling more impatient with her colleagues because they don't respond as quickly as her AI.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, and I keep circling back to, we're going to have to learn. So social discomforts, I mean, there's so many things going on with social discomfort these days, right? Because it's also harder for us to create the social discomfort when we're remotely, where it's harder for us to stumble into it. I mean, this is video. If I say something wrong, I can cut it out and edit it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's all the reasons why we don't spend time in that space. And I keep thinking AI will be what you ask it to be. And if I'm a leader today, and leadership's lonely, and
Yes.
you don't have even if you have budgets for mentors and coaches, it's not, all the time. You should be able to shape your
Mm-hmm.
digital interactions to be what you need them to be, which isn't to tell you that everything's great or give you,
Yes.
all the options from fire to hire and promote.
Yes. And and we probably will. the point that I'm making is that needs to be deliberate. You have to first
Yes.
value that skill set.
Yes.
And you have to first also value that thinking you have the answer is not going to lead to innovation. I do this kind of experiment with my students that it's fun. It's an activity they do and we learn from it. So the activity, you may have heard of it. It's called the Marshmallow Challenge. So it's this timed experiment where you get 20 sticks of uncooked spaghetti, some tape and a marshmallow, and your job is to build the highest tower you can in a team. So the tweak is, this has been used many places, like kindergartens all the way to executive teams. Everyone's used it. The tweak is in the leadership class, I tell them, use it to learn how to lead and innovate under pressure. And what happens, of course, is that within the class, there are always some who've done this before. And what's fascinating is to watch what happens with the teams that have someone who's done it before, who feels like they know the answer. And those teams build quickly, they're efficient, they waste little time in kind of dead-end avenues. They build a tower fast. They feel pretty good about themselves until we debrief. How did you lead for innovation? And then they suddenly realize, oh my gosh, we didn't. We turned this experiment from an innovation challenge into an engineering challenge. And we let one person who had the answer lead us through it.
What it is. Yeah. And what would you have liked us to do? Find 3 more ways to do it, right?
And push back. And so this ties in 2 ways. First of all, the AI always has the answer. So this worries me.
An answer. Yeah.
An answer. But it thinks it's the answer. Right?
Yeah.
It's super convincing. It's so enthusiastic. Even if it has to hallucinate it, it'll give you an answer, right? And hopefully the hallucination will get kicked to the curb. So that's the first thing that worries me. That the sense that if someone has the answer, it just drops the innovation. And secondly, when I ask the rest of the teams, and it's a team whenever there's a dominant voice, right? Why did you not put your idea in the flow? Why did you not push back? Why did you not slow it down? And all of the responses are around social discomfort. I didn't want to slow people down. I didn't think that my idea was needed. I didn't want to make the leader feel uncomfortable. I didn't want to have that conversation. So here we have the skill set that's needed combined with what we see when we feel like someone has the answer. And both together is tricky.
I mean, I agree. I keep going back to education. I mean, frankly,
Yes.
we're all products of a school system that taught us that there is a right answer. And the teacher will tell us the right answer.
Yes.
And I need to write it down and I need to memorize it. And if I can repeat it in a test, I'll get an A, right? I mean, that's what we were taught.
Yes.
That's no longer true. So what we weren't taught is how to figure out possible answers in a range of unknown answers when a lot of the assumptions are shifting as we move, right? So we need to figure out how to work with that. And I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, okay, the tools are the tools.
Yes.
You ask a question, I ask a question, we'll get a different answer. But if we also ask follow-up questions, we're going to get a completely different essay at the end, right? Isn't that what we should be teaching? Yeah, no, you don't agree.
I'm not sure. I would like to believe that that's true.
Okay.
But the data I have so far currently is that there is a kind of a combining effort that even if you ask different questions, it seems like the tool at the moment, and I'm not an expert on how AI is built, but it seems like the tool at the moment goes to the middle somehow. Over time, over repetition, it seems like it's bringing us to the sameness rather than just kind of exploring the difference. Now, I don't know if that's inbuilt or whether that can be tweaked, presumably it can, or whether this kind of a black boxness about how this tool is built. So I don't know actually how much we can change it.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. And I've been thinking more about the idea that can we learn to the portion that's still human, right? The portion that
Yes.
makes us, right?
Yes.
That I don't know that we fully understand. And what you're saying is, it's almost like you're saying the tool will end up giving you vanilla,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're not careful and you ask
Yes.
for something, you're going to get vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody actually consciously is trying to check out what other colors or flavors there are, they could have I think they could have a conversation that will give them a chocolate or strawberry, right? You don't have
Yes.
to get vanilla, but you have to learn to actively
Yes.
look for the
That would
other
make sense.
elements.
That would make
And
sense to me.
that feels to me like the leadership we should be teaching, and frankly, the skills we should. It's almost like the very basic skills we should be teaching these days.
Yes. I fully believe that we can train our AIs or train our leaders to use our AIs in a way that is useful. And I don't think there's any way to avoid the effect of having different people, humans, not AIs, in the room together, bumping up against each other, and the magic that comes from that in terms of innovation. And I just don't know that you can map it with an AI tool. It seems as if it requires the serendipity plus the energy plus the discomfort for some sort of breakthrough to happen. And
Do you think
I don't know that we can map it.
do you think that requires physical location, co-location?
I think it happens faster and better with physical co-location. I think that we probably can get there virtually, but it doesn't feel as if it's as effective. I mean, I teach virtually, I teach in person. The connectivity of in person is very different.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we haven't figured out how to interact the same way yet.
yeah. I
I
don't know
hope.
if maybe the human brain is built to read things we
Yeah.
don't know how to read, right? In 3D
Yeah.
versus in
Yeah.
2D.
Yeah. And well, we're still doing 2D. Yeah. So, okay. So kind of as we think about this, if the world, if the answers are cheap now, right? But it's the questions and the consciousness of generating discomfort and disagreement and diversity of thought and opinions and all that, what you call the pressure cooker, which I really like, is what distinguishes great organizations from the rest. Can you give us examples of people who do this right? Not necessarily people as in names, but how it gets done, what
How
it
it
looks
gets,
like when it
what it
works.
looks like. Um, it looks like a combination of those leaders that are able to build that psychological safe environment that we've had research on for a while. So the capacity to create the belief that people will have in your team that they can speak up, they can have a different opinion to you, they can push back, they can try something and fail, and you still are going to be on board with them as a person, as a learner. That piece, plus the internal capacity to kind of distinguish. One terminology we use is you have to differentiate and distinguish role from self. So the ability to remember that yourself, your wonderful, complex parent, child, lover, expert, whatever, that self that you are is distinct from your role, and that the role, when you're in leadership roles, has a certain purpose, a certain set of services you need to provide. And if you can pull that apart, then you experience the pushback, the friction, the uncertainty as related to role. Like I sometimes give my leaders this example. I say to them, when COVID destroyed our airline industry, and you were sitting there for hours and the flights were canceled and the next one would come up and it would get canceled, and you watch people lose their mind and go up to the poor person behind the desk and just like freak out at them, right? Totally freak out at them. You saw the difference between those who were sitting behind the desk who were like, this is in a role. This is not about me. This is not personal. I'm chilled. I understand it. I'm warm. I'm encouraging. And those that took it personal and were like, I'm calling the police on you because you're a lunatic. That's kind of the distinction, right? If you can see it as role, the pushback is role related, and the uncertainty and the discomfort and people's bristliness is role related. you can be more comfortable, I think, in just being
Yeah, and
steady.
that's a really important tip for any um, conflict of social discomfort situation, because most of our work related interactions that create social discomfort and conflict are not about me. They're about, maybe the opinion, the role, the what I'm trying to um to stand for. And I think, to me, circling back to the idea that maybe this is why we should be able to figure out how to work with AI, it should be even easier to
Mm-hmm.
get feedback
Mm-hmm.
and um, pushback from a tool
Mm-hmm.
that's programmed to tell you what you might not be seeing or not be considering or assuming, et cetera, than from a person, because then it's definitely not personal.
Yes, and
Yes, and
yes, and have you? How? I mean, I don't know how you feel. Have you noticed how you respond when it tells you something you disagree with?
when it responds in disagreement.
When it says something to you, whatever it is, that you're like, oh,
Yeah,
I don't agree with that.
how I respond, I write, that's not what I asked you to do, or I don't agree, or you haven't been listening to what I
Yeah,
get angry.
right. Yeah, like we're like, what the hell? It was wrong with you. That's not what I
Yeah.
asked for. Who are you to
Yeah.
tell me this? So it's funny because you would think if we would take it, but in fact, I feel like we're like just excuse me, we just discount it. And this is kind of because what we find with like executive coaching, like the piece that allows you to give someone a really difficult piece of feedback that they hear relies on the personal relationship.
Yeah.
They have to believe that you have their best
Interest. Yeah.
interest at
Absolutely.
heart, like deeply at heart, that
Yeah.
you are on their side. And of course, that you're trustworthy, that what you're saying is worth it, that there's something you're bringing that's worth them looking at. So I would love us to train our AI tools to do that. But I notice my own reaction is, you're wrong. What is wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting. So, I'm thinking about our conversation, and I keep looking for the unique human value. The conversation out there these days is, you can replace people with tools, and you're basically sitting here and it's like, what's wrong with you? Don't you see that it is first and foremost the human value? The tool can give you answers, but they're vanilla, they're flat. They're, even if you try to dive into them, they're going to circle back to being vanilla and flat and likable. And that's not what you need.
It's not what you need. No.
Yeah.
But it's
Awesome.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I was going to say that's not what we're here for, but some people are. So because um, I realized that we like answers,
Mm.
I always end my
Mm-hmm.
conversations with request for a question, not an answer. So what do you think is the question we should all be asking ourselves about the future of work?
For me, the question is, why are we not training our leaders to be skilled in the things that we know they need to do? And I worry that the shortcut we're going to use is, let's just have AI do it. Let's have AI train our leaders. Because for some reason, we don't want to invest in it. Like there's a real lack of willingness to invest in training our leaders. As I said earlier, we'll train people for 20 years to be experts in something. And then we'll train for 20 seconds to be the leader of the team, of the organization, of the company, of the nation. Hello. Why? I just don't know. My question is why?
Oh, don't you think that it's because we don't necessarily know what that is, but that it's that phase where there's no longer a script or a manuscript or the right answer, the five bullets that if everybody knew they could figure it out?
There is a bit of that. And there's also, we're still not exactly clear that there was a whole phase when we believed people had to just be born a leader. And that was just like, it was a
Yeah,
natural
that it
thing.
was.
You were just
Yeah,
born a leader or you were not. And too bad, so sad. we've got past that. We know that
Yeah.
we can train leaders, but it's still kind of rare. Like it's happening. I guess it's happening in some of the business schools. It's happening in the military. It's happening, in the school that I teach, but it's still rare and it's not seen as something that we should invest in.
So if I'm a CHRO listening to you or a leader listening to you, what are the, I don't know, handful of skills? I don't even know what to call them. Things that you would want me to go train myself in.
Okay. I wish I could just be like, there are 3. Do these
Yeah,
3.
that's exactly my point, right? But
Yeah,
yeah,
like
but
what do we
yeah.
say? We say we want to train our leaders to see the system so that they are not surprised by the response, because there's a systemic skill set. Understanding human systems, the same way that you might understand biological systems or environmental
Or the
systems,
work system that you,
is a whole skill set. There's that. There's learning to read humans so that you're not just interpreting them based on what they say, but on all sorts of complex things that you might be able to interpret, is that skill. There's intervening in teams and groups to have the really difficult conversations. Not easy, because often if you do it untrained, it'll blow up, right? There's having those crucial conversations and retaining the relationship. Difficult to do. Also skill set. There's how do you plan in uncertainty? There's how do you manage yourself when the heat is on? Like there's lots of different buckets of skills.
Yeah, and they're all
that you can learn.
They're all deeply human. I think
all deeply human.
What's really interesting is it just got even more important.
Yes.
Because the answers matter a lot less. It's asking the right questions and dealing with everything that goes around being able to ask the right questions, right? The needing to slow down, the resisting to kind of pull towards the average that you kind of pointed out at, working within the uncertainty and the shifting tides, right? So all very deeply human.
Very deeply human, yes.
Wonderful. So thank you, Kirsti, for joining me in the Future of Less Work today. For more about Dr. Kirsti Samuels and Chaos Insights, check out the links in the podcast description. And remember, talked about deeply human today. Your best people do not work because they have to, nor because you pay them to or you measure them on it. They work because they want to, because by working for you, they're doing what's important for them in life. Till next time.